Today, we'll be taking a look at Firewatch on the PS4 and the Potato Masher. If you don't know, the Potato Masher is a $375 PC, custom built in 2014 and designed to compete with the PS4 for the rest of its life cycle. The goal is not to pick on consoles, but to show that PC gaming can be just as good or better for the same money. The project was started by the Casual Shenanigans Gaming Podcast, so go check us out using the link on screen. You can support the Potato Masher project and my channel by tossing me a few bucks on Patreon to help me test new games quicker and better, and see all Potato Masher videos a few days early. Alright, let's get to it! I held off testing Firewatch at launch because the PlayStation 4 version ran poorly and had all the marks of a bad port. I always try to give a game a chance or two to be patched, as launch windows can be hard to hit sometimes, and many developers are good about getting patches out within a few days. Then another crop of new releases popped up, and I'm just now getting back to the game. I'm happy to say that it runs quite a bit better on the PS4 than it did at launch. Where the frame rate fluctuated between the low 20s and the high 30s before, it seems to be capped at a fairly consistent 30 FPS now. There are 1-second freezes every few minutes that unfortunately persisted throughout a few hours of testing, so this may not be a great PS4 port overall. While the Unity game engine makes use of Direct 3D or OpenGL on the Potato Masher, consoles use a proprietary API. There have been numerous good console games on Unity, but this one is a mixed bag. But on the Potato Masher, the game runs very well. At very high settings and capped at 30 FPS, the Potato Masher isn't being pushed very hard. If I uncap the frame rate, it runs in the low 50s most of the time. Firewatch's art style initially appears very simple, but there is quite a lot going on that can push a graphics card. Ambient occlusion, texture streaming, a beautiful lighting model, God rays, and more. The Masher and the PS4 look very similar with a few notable differences. The Masher has quite a bit more ground cover and foliage density. While the PS4's foliage doesn't look bad, the Masher looks more like a lush forest packed with vegetation. Shadows are a mixed bag. In this example, look at the shadows in the large rocks. The PS4's actually look quite a bit higher quality, while the shadows on the ground are all but identical on both platforms. In a later example, the PS4's shadow on this log looks lower quality. I didn't find many other examples, but it's possible that there are some dynamic shadow quality changes on both platforms. Other than the freezing and low foliage density on the PS4, the Masher and PS4 look very similar. Firewatch's unique art style is still modern and highly detailed, while not chasing ultra-realism at the expense of performance. Since the Masher has no trouble maxing the settings out at 30 FPS, it also hits 60 FPS very easily. Just turning the settings down to high is enough to give it the bump it needs. Firewatch's gameplay isn't rushed, and it isn't the type of game that necessarily needs to be played at 60 FPS. But it's so easy to hit 60 on the PC that likely only very old computers will need to play the game at 30. At 60 FPS and high settings, the Masher still looks better than the PS4. I'd probably recommend dropping settings in order to hit 60 FPS reliably, as the game's art style isn't significantly compromised until you get to very low settings. Even with a game like Firewatch, higher resolutions can bring a nice bump in detail and sharpness. At 1440p in high settings, 30 FPS is easily maintained. The game doesn't have any large aliasing issues on either platform, so there isn't any real improvement there. Foliage and distant detail get a nice bump though. Dropping to low settings, the Masher reaches 60 FPS again at 1440p. It's here that the foliage detail level appears to match the PS4. Lighting, shadows, and object detail are all still good, but noticeably worse than at high or very high settings. There's also some noticeable pop-in happening in the distance, although it's much less distracting than most open-world games. Going higher still in resolution, the Masher maintained 30 FPS at 4K resolution and low settings. The detail difference is very noticeable now. YouTube compresses videos so much it'll be harder to tell, but Firewatch looks fantastic at 4K. Here's the PS4 running at 1080p, with the Masher running at 1440p, and then 4K, all sized to scale. It's easy to see why higher resolutions will show more detail, given that so many more pixels are being rendered. These are very high quality pixels. But significantly lower quality pixels were necessary to reach 60 FPS at 4K, as I had to turn the settings down to very low. Here the lighting and shadows are quite a bit lower quality, and I wouldn't recommend playing the game like this. I am able to increase the shadows and lighting quality to low and keep all the other settings at very low, and the game still runs fine. I'd probably still recommend turning the resolution down or capping the frame rate at 30 to stay at least low settings across the board. While it's no graphical tour de force, Firewatch is unique and charmingly detailed. I could take screenshots of the sunsets and print them out to hang on my wall. The game is that pretty at times. It's also short and the story is a bit polarizing, but the game is cheap and worth experiencing if for no other reason than to walk around and gaze at the scenery. The freezes, 30 FPS, and lower quality foliage on the PS4 mean that I recommend playing the game on PC if possible, and this is another win for the Potato Masher. PS4 owners, still try the game out if you can. If you enjoyed this video, check out the original build video or any of the other Potato Masher videos linked on screen. You can also follow me on Twitter, check out the Casual Shenanigans Gaming podcast, or support the project on Patreon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.